All right, we are back. Try is currently... Oh, sorry, I had to turn his mic all the way up. So Try is currently in Miami, and so he's out. So that was his first league debut as a reserve. So he gets to go hang out. And it's not often we have a debut on the podcast anymore.
Yep.
And so we have not only an individual debut, number 2 ref we've ever had in the show, Mr. Matt Levoe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Did I say the last name right?
Yes.
Okay. Because on Instagram, are you Matt Candace?
The original one was Matthew and Candace, and
Got
then
it.
that one got hacked, so now we're Candace and Matthew.
Okay.
Levoe.
So I always thought that I thought for the longest time that your last name was Candace.
No, my wife's name is Candace.
Got it.
So, yeah.
Okay. That would be tough. If your last name was Candace and you married a Candace, you got Candace.
Well, there's people that have double names.
Yeah, how much NCAA do you have? NCAA Beach.
Quite a bit.
Okay. Because Moritz, South Carolina head coach, double name.
Yep.
One of the rarities.
Yep. It's people are trying to do a lot of unique names right now, and so
yeah,
I guess that kind of falls into that same category.
Yeah. Well, you have 3 kids.
Yes.
What was your naming process?
So our naming process, it kind of started with our dogs.
Okay.
And we're not following it anymore, but we kind of went where each of their first names, the last letter is an N. So we have Logan, Raylyn, and Weston.
Okay.
And those
are your children or your dogs?
Those are our children. Okay. And so, it kind of got messed up with 2 of the puppies that we have now.
Okay.
We decided to foster a mother and a litter of 8 puppies from the time they were 8 days old.
Whoa.
And so when you foster, they want you to help name the dogs. Okay. And they don't want like spot 1, spot 2.
Right.
They want you to give them unique names because it's easier for them to identify.
Right.
So having younger kids and those kids enjoying Harry Potter,
right, we
decided to go with Harry Potter theme.
Oh, I love it.
So we have Harry Potter, we had Hagrid, we had Ron Weasley, we had Ginny Weasley, we had Neville, we had Hermione, and there was one other, I can't think of it. But we ended up keeping Ron and Ginny Weasley.
Okay.
So Ron keeps it, but Ginny does not. So we're kind of like...
Dude, I love that you went for the Harry Potter theme for the litter. That's phenomenal.
So we obviously kept 2 of the puppies. My father-in-law kept Harry Potter, and then her aunt kept the mom. So when they come down and go to Disneyland, they bring her to have us watch them.
How was fostering 8 dogs?
It was actually, at that point, it was surprisingly easy.
Okay.
Because they were 8 days old,
yeah, and
the mom took care of 99% of the stuff. Every once in a while, if she didn't clean up everything, we'd have to go in and wash the pads that we had put under.
Yeah.
Make sure that there's water and food for her and that she has her space. Because at the time, we had 3 other dogs as well. So we had 12 dogs living at our house.
Oh, man.
So obviously, dogs age out. And we were kind of looking to maybe replace one or 2 of those dogs.
Got it.
And so during that process, one of them we did have to take care of. And
yeah.
Then about a year ago now, we had to take care of the second one.
Okay. And how hard was it letting the ones you didn't take? They didn't make the Matt Levoe draft.
It wasn't. I was kind of a bystander in the draft.
Okay.
My kids were the determining factor of which one we kept, which one we didn't keep.
Okay.
They gave each of them names before we actually named them. So like one of them was Long Socks, and that ended up being Ginny Weasley, and because she was the only one that had white like halfway up her arm.
Yeah.
And so we kept Long Socks, and then the first one to open his eyes was Ron.
Okay.
And he only opened one, and it was for like 2 days, and it was before any of the other puppies. So he was one eye.
Okay. He was giving the old Jack Sparrow pirate.
Yep. And so we kept Long Socks and one eye, and that's Harry Potter and Ron.
It'd have been so funny if those names kept.
Yeah. Would have been a little harder to find names for the rest of the puppies, but
yeah,
it definitely does create a story.
That's amazing.
For sure.
Man, so you wear many hats.
I do.
I mean, you're ref, you're dog dad, fostering dogs, you have 3 kids of your own.
Yep.
What is I think a lot of people, myself included, I don't know what refs do. Like, how many of you guys just ref volleyball?
For a long time, I was one of the few that all I did was ref.
Okay.
You have people like Keith Merles, who works within the USAV. He's I don't know if he's the president of a region, but the Rocky Mountain region.
Okay.
He's kind of in charge of everything there. And so he obviously works within volleyball. You had a lot of people that were teachers. So like Lars Hazen, who just retired from teaching in the Manhattan School District. He was a teacher.
Okay.
And then that allowed him to ref on nights and weekends and have the summers off to just spend the entire time at the beach and coach and do all that. Especially at the high school ranks, which is where most people start, you get a lot of college students. And so trying to figure out ways to retain those students once they get new jobs.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the conundrum that all of officiating is in. Is it's easier to bring people in, it's harder to keep people going.
Yeah.
Especially when, who wants to go out there and get yelled at on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And, if you're reffing a sport like soccer or basketball or one of those, then obviously you're running up and down and you're getting a little bit of exercise. Volleyball is one of those sports that as far as the officiating goes, it's kind of looked at as, oh, that's my retirement sport. I was a basketball or baseball or soccer official, and my knees won't let me run anymore, but I can go stand there and ref a volleyball match.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of hard to get those people trained, because volleyball, we like to explain it as volleyball is very much a gray sport. Everything is in the gray pretty much. There's baseball is black and white. Was the ball hit fair or foul? Was the ball hit in or out? Baseball does have some more of the judgment of the balls and strikes.
Zone, yeah.
And we have the hands.
Yeah.
The never-ending debate about the hands.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people get tripped up, is because they're not used to having to make that judgment on every single play.
Yeah. It's hard because it's a never-ending judgment call, but it's also a never-ending advancement of the rules of the hands. When did you start reffing?
I started reffing in 2015 for beach. I started reffing indoor in 2002, right when I graduated high school.
Okay. How much has your judgment of reffing and calling hands changed since 2015 to now?
I was one of those kids that would always grow up going to the Manhattan Beach Open, going to the Huntington Beach Open, the Hermosa, driving up to Santa Barbara when they had that event. And, the old adage of if it has more than a half a spin or a quarter spin, that's automatically a double. Right. You're not looking at the hands. And so that wasn't necessarily the case when I was starting. The FIVB had already kind of come in, and they weren't as loose as obviously they are now. But it was tending to kind of go that direction more, especially because that was when the college world was really taking off. It was a couple years before that, but that's when it was finally becoming an NCAA sport. It was getting actual scholarships. And so it was kind of the conundrum of, well, are we going to continue to try and maintain this elite level? Because volleyball is kind of an elitist sport when you get to the high levels. Much like tennis or soccer, you have the money to pay for coaches, or you have the money to live near a beach. And so, are we going to maintain that status quo, or are we going to let more of the everyday man play? Now you have people that are way inland. I mean, Texas is building a beach program. I don't know how close the nearest beach is to Texas.
They have a lot of facilities in Texas too.
Yes, but again, that's not beach. And so that's part of why, like the NCAA, they term it as sand volleyball. It's not beach volleyball.
Have they changed that? I thought they switched it. I know it was originally sand volleyball.
It has gone to beach now, but that's why it was termed sand originally, is that was their justification.
Got it.
I mean, even like a school like Long Beach State, which is 15 minutes from the beach, they have courts on campus.
Yeah, Florida State, we have them. I mean, we're not the closest beach that you could play on. It's probably an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a good program.
Yep.
But it's weird because when I play tournaments that are ref by players, particularly in Florida, it is way stricter.
I find the same thing. Yeah. And It's funny that you say that because even refereeing a qualifier, there's different expectations of hands than there is a main draw.
Yeah.
And
because they expect it to be tighter.
They
in qualies,
expect
right?
it to be tighter in a quali than we call it in a main draw. And, you know, we get guys that are complaining all the time that, oh, there's a little bit of spin. Well, yeah, that works when you're not having someone stand right there just looking at the hands.
Right.
Like, that's my one job on that one contact. I'm not worried about, oh, I got to keep score. I mean, during qualifiers, we are doing that. But my one job is to judge that play.
Yeah.
And so if I don't see that distinct 1-2, if there's not any sideways movement, then I'm probably not going to call it. If it's egregious and you come out with just one hand and not the other, probably going to call it.
Yeah.
But again, it's all judgment. And we can't go by spin. And a lot of people, kind of the old adage of you used to come over the top.
Yeah.
Well, that's a double. I don't see a 1-2 in there. I see a bad set.
Right.
By a lot of people's terminology, but it's not an illegal set.
Right.
And so spin is an easy way when you're just playing the rec game or your own tournaments to kind of that's just the standard. Mm-hmm. There is no, hey, that ball spun. Like, it's an easier way to get out of.
Yeah. I always like people saying that spin is a potential indicator that a double has happened.
Yes.
But it does not mean, like, not all spin are doubles.
Yeah.
But most doubles will spin.
Well, and I like to bring up the idea of what happens if I hit a ball with one hand and put spin on it.
Right.
Is that a double?
Right.
No.
Brooke Niles gave me the craziest explanation. It exploded my mind. You can grab that if you want.
Sorry, that's...
You're good. You're good. Not the first time, not the last, Matt. Don't worry.
Kids are getting out of school right now, so that's the go pick them up.
Dad is priority one. See that? See how dedicated Matt is. By the way, he's leaving his kids to come on the show.
Yeah, my wife can handle it for today. Actually, she handles it a lot more than that because I end up traveling so much. But
yeah, but Brooke Niles gave me the craziest explanation. This was, years before I started coaching with her. She said, because I was down covering a tournament in Tallahassee. This was 2020 before COVID went nuts.
Yeah.
And because a ref called a ball kind of based on spin, and she goes, well, what happens when you roll a ball with spin against a wall? It's going to come back with spin.
Yep.
And she goes, can a wall double? It can't. It's just a flat surface. And I was like, blew my mind.
Yeah.
Changed my outlook on setting forever.
Yeah. And, again, it's getting that out there for people to kind of think about. Because for how many years was it you see spin, you call it?
Yeah.
And so it's old school volleyball is kind of notorious for it, of wanting it to be the old tighter. And things change. The game grows. The game progresses. You're wanting to add a little bit more action. You're wanting the officials to be less involved. How many players on the World Tour now are jump setting?
A lot.
Yeah.
Big number.
And do you want to take that out of the game because there is a higher risk of them doubling the ball or even catching the ball, which is what the FIVB is more wanting to call now. But is that something that is going to attract fans by getting more involved, or will letting them play, letting them be athletes, letting them do the spectacular and enjoying themselves, is that going to be what brings more fans in? Right.
I think, it's so hard because there's the argument that you still want setting to be a skill.
Yes.
Which in indoor, what are your thoughts on the indoor rule change? And for reference's sake, for those who don't know, in NCAA indoor volleyball, doubles are no longer a thing.
As long as it stays on your side of the net. So if you're playing it to your teammate, then you can do pretty much whatever you want, as long as it is one attempt. If you're trying to set a teammate and you doubled it and it goes over the net, then it's automatically a double. It's not automatically, but
it's likely.
It is. That is when you would call it.
Okay.
And most second contacts, you're not going to have to worry about it because they're trying to set their teammates.
Yeah.
I was a setter in high school.
Okay.
And I think I had pretty good hands because this was... I graduated high school when it was still side-out scoring.
Where'd you go?
I went to a small private school called Village Christian up by Burbank.
Got it.
And then obviously went to Cal State Northridge afterward and was a libero there. But when I graduated high school, it was you could not play the ball with anything below the waist.
Okay.
Ball could not hit the net on a serve.
Okay.
Could not double the first contact.
Okay.
You could only serve in the right side 3 meters, the right side 10 feet.
Wait, for real? That was a rule?
Yeah, you didn't have the entire width of the court. There was hash
Like
marks.
ping pong? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was hash marks that you had to serve between.
I'm learning something new today, Matt.
Well, we could go back even further, and the antenna used to be a ball width outside of the line.
What would the purpose of that be?
Because if it hits the line, it was in. So why, if it hits the antenna that's right above the line, is it all of a sudden out?
Huh. So now it's on like the outside of the line.
Yeah, so now it's on the outside line. But that's why they have on some of the indoors, there's the tape.
Yeah.
And then the antenna right next to the tape.
Got it.
Well, originally the tape was the line.
Yeah.
And then the antenna was a ball width
Okay.
or 10 inches outside of the tape.
Okay. Huh. I'm loving this.
Yeah.
This is what we get when we have a debut podcast.
You learn
guys.
something new every day.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, again, you could go back even to weren't allowed to block over the net.
I think that's so funny. I think on the beach it's so funny because you had this masculine, in my mind, just stupid ethos where it was like, well, if you need to block, when they changed it and you could press, like, well, if you need to block, you're a sissy.
But then at the same time, that was when you could block a serve. So you couldn't reach up and block on the other side of the net.
Yeah.
But you could go up and block a serve, just not crossing into the other side of the net.
Could you like attack it? Or did you just have to
could not attack it. You could only block it.
Straight up. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So
if you got your serve block, then you deserve to get your serve blocked because that was.
And if you're playing doubles and you're willing to take the risk and come up to the net and have one person passing the whole court, I think you should be allowed to do it.
Yeah. And good luck. Have fun with that.
Yeah.
If you can do it.
High risk,
God
high reward.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have that argument of setting should still be a skill.
Yeah.
Which I see. I think them taking it out of the indoor game. I've gone both ways. I get both sides of it.
Personally, it comes down to me as an official, okay, what am I there for then? To an extent.
Yeah.
Because that is one of the biggest things. Obviously, you have things like touches and joust and stuff like that are crucial to try and get right. But with the advent of CRS, is that going to be necessary still?
Yeah.
So many, they're adding more and more calls to it, and it's not, they have the bundle at the end of a rally where now if I just challenge touch, as a ref, you have to look at touch, in, out, and net. And if any one of those things happen, then it's the other team's ball. Then you win the challenge. Mm-hmm. And so, where is the progression of the CRS going to go? Yeah. And if you don't know what CRS is, it's the challenge replay system that the NCAA uses both in the men's and women's indoor games.
Thank you for that. That was my next question. Because I get the side of the people who want setting to be a skill, and you don't just want people chucking it and whatever. And then I get the side, but when I watch indoor, and I don't watch a lot of indoor, but when I watch the NCAA, the setting's trash anyway. They juggle sets all the time, and it went uncalled when it was a rule. And so what I want to know is, how many points is that actually going to affect by taking it out of the game?
So they did a couple preseason tournaments where they tested it out, and we as officials were requested that we keep track of, well, I would call that ball. Mm-hmm. So how many balls would you have called? And in turn, then how many of those rallies where you would have called that set did the other team end up winning? So did it end up going to the right team?
I love you guys did that, yeah.
And so it was like 82% of the time when there was a mishandled set on one side that we would call most of the time. 82% of the time, the other team would win that rally.
So the team that would have won the rally had you called it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you still, now you have the potential for some spectacular plays. You have the potential for more rallies. Yeah. And again, are you going for growing the game fan-wise, or are you going for pleasing the old-timers that... I won't even say old-timers, because I like the cleanliness of the game and the skill of the game that it requires. So...
And most good setters are going to set clean anyway.
Yeah.
Micah Christensen He's going to set clean whether doubles or a rule or not.
And if you ask most hitters, especially on the beach, what's easier to hit? A ball that was cleanly set or a ball that was doubled?
A nice set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you're hurting your own team in essence by not having good fundamentals.
Yeah. And then you have the jump sets where I think that because I think the way that it's called on the beach right now, they're going heavy on lifts internationally.
Yes.
AVP is tighter on the doubles, I think. Americans just have low and slow hands, especially the college chicks.
Yes.
Man, they give it that ball some love before they throw it out. But jump setting, I think because it is such an advantageous skill to have, I think that the jump set should still be called strict.
I would tend to agree.
Yeah.
I don't see the FIVB doing that at this point. Again, because they want the viewership.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense. I get that argument.
It's hard to justify on both ends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's an argument for each way.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they tell us what we get to call and we get to enforce it.
How much FIVB do you do?
I was trying to go through the pipeline because as officials, you have to go to a course internationally and get your NORCECA and then be rated by someone and certified and have them sign off that, yes, this person really can ref. Mm-hmm. I missed out on an opportunity to go in 2019.
Okay.
And somebody else was able to take my place. So we sent 3 people in 2019, and then we just sent 3 people at the beginning of this year.
Okay.
To another course. So we have 6 people that have just gone through the clinics and are officially FIVB. Only one of them, you have unrated and rated.
Okay.
So 5 of them are unrated and 1 of them is rated now.
Okay.
And then it's a whole ladder of progression that you got to work your way up with the FIVB to try and get to the point where Brig Beatty is at now.
Yeah. So
and
we got
doing the men's R1 final.
Because we got Brig, Suzanne, does a lot of international.
Keith is retired.
Okay.
Katie Meyer was doing it.
Okay.
Tony Chan, Richard Blue.
Okay.
There's a couple others that are retired, but those are the more recent ones.
Okay. And is that something that you want to do? Is get a little bit more international?
There is age requirements.
Okay.
So you have to be going through the clinic with the FIVB by the time you're 45.
Okay.
I'm 40. I turned 41 in October.
Okay.
And so probably isn't in the cards for me anymore.
Got it.
Plus it's hard. I mean, you ask Brig, being away from your family for 3.5 weeks.
So hard.
For Paris.
Yeah.
For the Olympics. And, you know, getting a call on a whim. FIVB is the type of organization where if they send you an email saying, hey, in 3 weeks, we need you at this tournament, and you say no, you pretty much go from wherever you are on the list all the way down to the bottom.
Yep.
And unless everybody else above you messes up, you're probably not going to get another chance. And that's the way that they do it. And, you know, they implemented the forced retirement at 55 for a number of years. And then
forced retirement.
They took your patch away at 55, which is what happened to Keith.
Okay.
And so it was forced retirement at 55. And there's a whole story that I can go into about that. And they just, because they hadn't been running any clinics during COVID, they realized that they were out of officials that were going to be ready. So they increased it to 60. So now the age limit is 60.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's I didn't know any of this. The reffing ecosystem.
Yeah. Well, the whole age limit comes down to, I want to say it was 92 in Barcelona.
Okay.
When Bob Samuelson got the 2 yellow cards in a match.
Bob Samuelson.
It was indoor on the men's side. For the U.S., he was an opposite. And he got 2 yellow cards in a match. And the official was 59 years old.
Okay.
And by rule in the FIVB, your team gets 1 yellow, and then the next card is a red.
Okay.
Doesn't matter if it's the same player or a teammate.
Got it.
It's yellow, red, and then another red, and then potentially ejections and stuff like that. But he got 2 yellows, and the ref was 59 years old. And so FIVB went in and said, this is a mistake that we can't have happen again. We're going to blame it on his age, and we're going to make everybody retire at 55.
Huh. Damn.
And, yeah.
Does that rule still stand?
Like I said, as far as the yellow cards,
the yellows.
Yes, that is still a rule. So say you're out there playing with Andy again, and you get a yellow card. The next, say Andy then doubles the ball and he doesn't like it, and he's yelling at me. I can't just give him a yellow card.
Right.
I have to give him a red card now.
Really?
So your team gets one yellow card, and then the next one has to be a red.
Okay.
That is indoor and beach, and that is for the entire match.
Is that AVP or FIVB?
That is, we follow 99% of the FIVB rules.
So, controversy. I want to say Paris Elite 16 last year, not 23. Trevor and Theo are playing Horl and Horst, Austria.
Yep.
And Horl and Horst are up, I want to say 12-5 in the third. And cue the meltdown. And Horst gets a yellow, which is fine. Nice little souvenir to bring home. And then I want to say it was a big point. Big one. And he gets another yellow. And I'm broadcasting.
Yep.
And so I'm like, I thought it was you get 2 yellows, it's red. A red on the beach is a point. And it was just a double yellow. And I'm getting texts flooding in.
Yeah, it 100% should have been a red.
Really?
Especially within the same player.
Okay.
But yeah, FIVB and USA Volleyball, which is the rule set that we follow, it's 1 yellow per team for the match and 1 red for the team for the match.
This is good to know.
Don't get a yellow card first.
Okay.
And if you jump the system and go straight to red, then you can't go backwards.
So you can't get a yellow after getting a red.
Yeah.
Okay. So once you get a red, then it's just reds all the way out.
It's 2 reds and then a disqualification.
How much judgment do you put into sort of like the spirit of the law? So when I played my first main draw win ever was in Hermosa 2018. I was playing with Hagen, and Madison McKibben punted a ball, launched this thing, clearly intending to punt it. He gets a red. I think that was deserved. And then I was watching Try and Trevor were playing Troy and someone in Chicago, and someone goes to hit a serve, and the ref blows the whistle, and so the play is dead. Just going to replay it serve again, but Troy kind of kicks it, and he intending to just kick it into the corner or something, but it just catches his foot funny, and it just goes. And Try and Trevor were like, "Yo, he punted it out of the court. That's a red." Yep. But the spirit of the kick was not there was no malintent with it. How much of that do you put into a judgment call versus just strictly following the book? The
AVP player handbook does state specifically that if you kick a ball and it goes outside the playing banner, that is an automatic red.
Okay.
We do have some wiggle room, just like we do on doubles, that, we have to be careful, and especially if you're playing, the team that's supposed to get the red is playing against guys that truly know that rule. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit harder to sell.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of walk that tightrope of, well, I know he wasn't trying to.
Right.
But the whole theory behind it is I can control what's inside those banners.
Yeah.
I can't control anything that happens outside of it. So if you kick a ball outside of it and it hits someone, AVP is liable at that point.
Okay.
And so that's what they're trying to eliminate.
Okay. Because in Manhattan this year, Try and Ryan Wilcox playing Chase Buttinger, Miles Evans. I forget who was reffing, but we were on one of those courts where there were balls coming from everywhere. We had it was 5 straight ball lines or something. Yep. And Chase and Miles have a free ball opportunity, and it's another ball on. And Chase just picks this thing up and sends it. And me, Try, and Ryan were like, yo, we were kind of laughing because just the ridiculousness of the situation. No one wants that many balls on. I was like, yo, that's a red. And Try and Wilcox knew, and the rest were like, we know, but given the circumstances.
So if I was the ref on that match and someone were to try and say something, because when you have a million courts going, simply say, okay, guys, we're keeping that ball. He was giving their ball back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
You know, it's not necessarily what everybody wants to hear, but it's an easy way to kind of smooth it over. Say, yeah, I know what he did isn't 100% kosher.
Yeah.
But I know where he's coming from.
Yeah. And if I were reffing, I would not have given Chase a red card because what was happening was insane.
Yeah.
And it was like the third time something like that had happened.
You have to realize, and this kind of comes down to the whole complaining thing, is we're out there dealing with players that are amped up, high on testosterone, wanting to win everything, playing for money. The difference between a 7th place and a 5th place is how much money?
I couldn't tell you the exact numbers.
It varies. Probably $500 though.
Yeah, at least.
Give or take.
At least.
Is that more than a couple meals worth?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I make a call and there's a potential that I could have messed up.
Yeah.
And I'm dealing with your paycheck, I better give you a little bit of leeway about being upset.
Yeah.
And there's some officials that will say, no, that's a sportsmanship thing. And I'm human. I was atrocious to refs when I was growing up. I got more than my fair share of cards. I'm going to let you have your piece.
Yeah.
But if it keeps going, then that's where there has to be a line somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'll give you that instantaneous, hey, come on, where's that double? That's horrible, dude. All right, now next play. If you continue to go at that point, then that's where we got to do something about it.
Yeah. There's a very distinct difference between the way that AVP refs handle player interactions and FIVB.
Oh, yeah.
FIVB, you can't ask a question.
Yep.
Whereas AVP, you can have a conversation, and sometimes I think AVP refs let it go a little bit too long, but I prefer that, where you can actually have a civil discussion, versus FIVB, someone chucks one, and you're like, yo, is that the line? And they're like, get back to your serve receive.
And a lot of that comes down to the language barrier.
Yeah.
Because you have how many officials that are coming from different regions and players that are speaking different languages. Do you want to have a Brazilian ref speaking with a Portuguese player in Portuguese, and you're standing right there and you have no idea what they're talking about?
Right.
The language on the FIVB is supposed to be English. How much English? The refs are only required to know enough to do a coin toss and not much more.
Heads or tails.
And it's not even heads or tails. It's you're this side, you're this side.
Yeah.
Receive? Okay. First server? Okay. Second server. Side A? Side B.
That's amazing.
So that's where the FIVB is coming from on that.
Yeah.
Is, they can't let you talk to someone that's from Spain that knows really good English.
Right.
Have a long conversation when somebody that's from maybe you're playing a Chinese team and they can't speak a lick of either Spanish or English.
Right.
So that's where the FIVB has kind of said, no, call is final.
Yeah.
That's why they started having the challenge system, stuff like that.
Yeah, got it. When I was, 2021, Bulgaria had like 4 or 5 futures. I don't know. And then I played a bunch of 4 stars. Well, there was 1 star, I guess, back then. So we were there a lot. We were there for like 6 months. We played a couple there, domestic tour events. And 1 stars, futures, kind of the lower level refs a lot of times.
That's a lot of the new refs that have just gotten certified.
Yeah.
And so you're going to get more inconsistencies.
Yeah. And I just remember I would go to argue a call or just like say, hey, is that the standard, whatever it may be. And the ref would go, not possible. And then he would just motion me back. Mm-hmm. And so me and Delaney, we always joke. If I'm like, hey, is dinner almost ready? She'll go, not possible. But they just was not having the discussion. And I could just be like, was that inbounds or out of bounds? Not possible.
Yeah. And, indoor, especially on the women's side, it's becoming more of the way of less discussions.
Yeah.
Because, like for instance, when I used to work in the Pac-12, if the referees before the match would talk to one coach for 5 or more seconds longer than the other coach, they would get in trouble.
Right.
Because there's the perception now of, oh, well, you like that coach better than you like me.
Yep.
never there 99% of the time, but there is that perception.
Right.
And so NCAA and the PAVO, which is the governing body for the women's indoor collegiate, is tending to go more that direction. That's why they've gone like USA, where the assistant coach can't talk to the officials as far as questioning calls. They can ask for number of subs or number of timeouts or next server.
Yeah.
But they can't ask anything like, hey, was that an under? Then that's supposed to be an automatic yellow card. But
got it.
I don't know how many people are actually enforcing it.
Right.
Because it was so ingrained.
Yeah.
And it's jokingly called the Tyler Hildenbrand rule.
The Tyler Hildebrand rule.
Because of when he was at Nebraska, I want to say 2021 or 2022 when they won the national championship.
He's there for a couple of years, yeah. He's there for 3.
He spent the entire match talking to the R2 and just bantering him with questions. And so the NCAA is like, wait, this guy's not even the head coach. We need to do something about that.
Ty's one of the smartest people I've ever met.
Oh, I've been playing against Tyler since we were in high school together.
Yeah.
He was living in Phoenix playing for Club Cactus, and I was living in Southern California, and they'd come out here and play tournaments, and then we'd see him at JO's, and then obviously he went to Long Beach State, and I went to Northridge, so played him a couple times there. And,
And when it comes to volleyball, dude can talk.
Dude, he knows the game.
Yes.
He knows the indoor game. He obviously ran USA Beach for a while.
Yep.
Especially leading up to the 2020 Olympics that became 2021. And so, yeah, he's not at lack of knowledge.
No. He was he held the spot for about 5 years for the longest podcast episode we'd ever done.
Okay.
It's about an hour 45, and then recently taken over by Nick Lucena and Brooke Niles.
Okay.
Checked in about 2 hours.
Yeah, Nick knows how to talk.
Yeah, but Ty, I mean, he could just talk volley all day.
Yeah.
And so I think he probably knows how to work a ref too. It's a skill.
Yep.
What are some of the most difficult? Actually, gosh, there's a couple questions. What's more difficult, indoor or beach?
They are very different.
Yeah.
Because you have to pay attention to different things.
Okay.
Indoor, obviously, with 6 players on the court, there's a lot more things that could be hidden from you. Because whether it's a ball coming down the net that's a waterfall and they're trying to play it up, different stuff like that. You have to worry about rotations, especially in serve receive. Coaches are going to get on you about that if one player is leaving early.
How in the world does a ref keep track of rotation? So I never played indoor. I've played 6-man 3 times. I'm never in rotation. I don't know where I'm supposed to be ever. And I got Aaron Walkful was over here. He's like, "Oh, you're back left right now." I'm like, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going. Just tell me where to go.
Yeah.
Keep track?
Sometimes that's what it is when you're reffing some of the lower level, like Frost soft teams or whatever. But having grown up in the sport, I mean, my dad helped start the boys volleyball team at the high school that I went to.
Okay.
My dad recruited my mom to play at Westmont.
Okay.
So they met at Westmont. Volleyball has been in me. My mom coached the girls volleyball team at the high school. It's just something that I look at court and I go, all right, they're in row 1. They're in row 5. They're in row 3.
Yeah.
And just by the way that they're lined up. Now, obviously, a lot of teams are starting to kind of mix up their lineups. It depends on whether you're running a 5-1 or a 6-2 and different stuff like that. But it's the type of thing that you just – how do you know where you should be when you're blocking?
For beach?
Yeah.
Well, where's the ball going?
Well, but as far as lining up, it takes time for you to learn how to line up, whether I'm blocking a 4, whether I'm blocking a 1, okay. So you're figuring out how to line up, and that takes time. Yeah. It takes time as a ref. Unless you've played, it takes a lot of time and a lot of reps. Yeah. Most players that have come up through the indoor can usually figure it out pretty easy because especially setters. Setters, the captain of the court, usually has to know where everybody is and put them in rotation because middles don't know what they're doing.
The Neanderthal.
Right, D. and Andy Benish. I'm just messing, guys.
But what are some of the difficulties of reffing beach particular?
Beach, you're by yourself a lot.
Yeah.
Especially at the collegiate level and qualifier days.
The most intense days.
Yeah. It's, I'm the R1, I'm the R2, I'm the line judge, I'm the scorekeeper.
Yep.
And I got to be able to maintain peace with all the players.
Yep.
And so the score sheet, a lot of people are scared by the score sheet. You get into a rhythm with it, just like you do anything else that you're doing repetitively. Yep. So writing the exit score, checking off who's serving next. You're willing to give up a little bit more because the pace of the ball moving on the beach is not where it is indoor. Just because the ball is a little bit flatter, you have all the elements. Mm-hmm. Again, there's only 2 players, so they can't have one person running a slide and the other person running a shoot. And as a ref, I got to, okay, which way are they going? Is the middle going to go up and try and block the set? It's a little bit more straightforward in that sense. And beach, there's more room for you to almost be a person, to interact with the players. And I'm sure most people that are out there know that I'm one of those people that I'm not afraid to talk to people out there. I am a person too.
Yeah.
I like to have conversations about the game.
Refs are people too.
I'm always trying to learn, always trying to grow. Players probably don't know it. I've come out numerous times when I had heard that there was going to be practice down here at 16th Street. I'll come up and I'll park at 18th or whatever, and I'll sit on the wall and I'll just watch practice and watch the interactions and go, I might have they're not saying anything about it. Okay, maybe I should learn not to call that. And so you guys, the players, are playing at this level day in and day out. As an official, how often do I get to see this level? Mm-hmm. Especially for the AVP. Yeah. Indoor, even the men's college level, I see that level on a fairly regular basis. So it's easier to kind of maintain your level with the indoor stuff. Once you get to that, it's a little bit harder, I would say, honestly, to get it up to, hey, I'm truly AVP ready. Yeah. I started traveling in 2019. I thought I was a decent ref at the time. I got put in my place pretty quickly.
Who put you in your place? The players, other refs, a little bit of both?
Players, mostly.
Players.
Refs are a little bit more understanding because... you wouldn't go to a guy that's playing in the qualifier trying to work his way up and say, dude, you missed that ball. Yeah. You should have nailed that pass. No, they'll say, hey, next time you might want to think about looking at this. Yeah. Or what were you watching on this play that made you want to call that? And so they tend to want to see the game grow in that sense and not push people away. Players yelling at you is going to push you away if you're not ready for it and you're not willing to grow and not willing to learn. Yeah.
What made you want to get into reffing, and what has kept you in reffing? Because I look at it, and I'm like, that looks like the worst job in the world.
So I got into reffing because I was not the nicest person to officials growing up. Okay. And somebody basically told me, well, if you think you can do better, why don't you do better? So I got certified for high school in 2002. Which was right after the summer after high school. And those first 8 years, I only reffed probably 5 matches because I was busy playing at Northridge and then working and doing that. But in girls season of 2002, Marvin Hall was officiating a couple of the...
Dancing Marvin?
Yep, Marvelous Marv. R.I.P. He was reffing a couple matches, and there were line judges that didn't show up for the men's matches. Uh-huh. And so I was the only freshman that was not, and could still function. So I went down and I volunteered to be a line judge. And he said, you're actually pretty good at this. You know the game. Give me your number and I'll start giving you some women's matches. So I got into doing women's college, and the first ever match I was assigned to was women's season of 2003, and it was UCLA at USC. Oh, and that was that was the second year of SC winning back-to-backs. Got it. With April Ross as an outside, and wow. And so, that was my first ever assigned college match that I went to, and being an athlete, you want to get to the highest level. Mm-hmm. And having been so harsh on officials growing up, figuring out that, hey, this was a pretty good gig. It's a decent way to make money. I get paid to watch the game. I get paid to have one of the best seats in the house for a game that I love. Why not continue it? And it started off as kind of a part-time thing, and then started working my way up down in Orange County. Starting in 2010, 2015, like I said, I went and got certified for the beach. And I looked at it as you could either go into coaching, where, especially at the lower levels, you get to deal with parents, not just the athletes. And parents bother me. And a lot of that is because I'm the complete opposite of most parents. Like, my son was asking me the other day, hey, Dad, what's going on? Why am I not playing as much? I said, I don't know. Have you asked your coach? He's like, well, can you ask him for me? Nope.
I freaking love that, Matt.
And so all the parents... Thank you.
Great job.
If there's an opportunity to give some game insight, but I'm not going to be that parent that is overbearing and, hey, why isn't my kid playing? I'm not going to sit there and say, hey, Logan, why don't we go to the park and play soccer? If he wants to work and get better at it, my youngest, Weston, is great at that. Dad, can we go play soccer outside? We're at another kid's practice. Dad, can we go play soccer? Can you bring a volleyball? Can you bring a soccer ball? And we'll just kick it back and forth. If you want to put in the effort, I will be 100% all in for you.
Love that.
But I'm not going to be the one that is making you want to do things, because then you're just going to end up hating it.
Yeah.
And so getting to the highest level, you either go coaching or reffing. Well, coaching, you got to deal with parents. Reffing, I can just kick a parent out.
Right.
little bit easier that way. No, I'm not the type of official, obviously, that is going to get on a parent for yelling or anything. But where I do draw the line, especially in the high school ranks, is we have kids that are in high school that are doing lines. In club, we have kids that are in the younger ages that are keeping score. We are the only sport in the world where kids officiate other kids that are within the same age group. Now, soccer, they'll get like 17, 18-year-olds that are officiating 12, 13, 14-year-olds. And that's one thing. But the same age, and then they'll make a mistake. And parents will start yelling, score, score. How many mistakes have you as a parent made already, and your son's only how old?
Right.
Allow kids to make mistakes.
Yeah.
They'll yell at line judges. And, I mean, I'll be honest, just this year in high school, I've already kicked 3 parents out for yelling at my line judges. Because that's fine. Yell at an adult, but don't yell at another kid.
Yeah. It's fair.
I wouldn't want anybody yelling at my kid like that. So
yeah,
that's kind of where I put things into perspective.
Yeah. Because I think reffing is probably the most thankless job, one of the most thankless jobs I know. Because the best refs are the ones that you don't notice.
Yeah.
They make good calls. Hey, that should be called. They see the right things. They let things go that should be let go. And you're just like, oh, that I didn't even notice the ref was there. That was a really well ref game.
Yeah. I like Tom Pestalacci has a quote that he told me one time is refs usually have 5 calls to make in a game, give or take. If you get 3 of them right, you're an above average ref. Let's be honest. And these are, I'm not talking like big in out calls. These are the tight calls. If you get 3 correct, you're doing pretty good. If you get 4 correct, then yes, you should be doing college. You should be moving up. 5, hey, congratulations. You might want to think about retiring because you might not do that again. And there's an old official that Larry Schwartz, 6'7" a safe. He was let him play Larry before it was popular indoors. And his favorite quote after a match is, what mistakes did I make?
Yeah.
Did I have a perfect match? No. Okay, I can keep reffing. I haven't achieved my goal yet of a perfect match.
I like that.
And so, just like as a player, has anybody hit 1,000 on the AVP tour ever?
I don't know. Taylor Sander got freaking close in Chicago.
Yeah, but still, hitting 1,000 means every single time you get set, you get a kill.
Yep.
Is that possible to hit 1,000?
It is possible.
It is possible, but it is highly unlikely.
Yeah.
How many judgment calls, do we as an official have during a match?
Apparently 5.
5 that are...
A lot.
5, I mean...
You got a lot.
You have to be aware on every single play.
Yeah, I mean, you have a judgment call every time it goes in someone's hands.
Yes. And so, you can't expect perfection when, like I said at the beginning, we're reffing in the gray.
Yeah.
It is a gray sport. So then it comes back to, well, we're all going to make mistakes. Do I want to err on the side of being too tight and taking in an opportunity away from someone to finish the point the way that it should be finished? Or would I rather err on the side of missing something that maybe it probably should have been called as a double or a catch or whatever, but okay, I let that one go.
Where do you stand? Does it change?
I would rather be the type of ref, and this is what I'm learning. This is something that I'm still working on. I'd rather be the type of ref that walks away from a game going, maybe I could have called that one play, as opposed to walking away from a game going, I really wish I hadn't made that call.
I like that. Do you change your reffing as the game progresses? Are you going to ref any different at 13-13 in the third set as you would at 5-5 in the first?
If it has been a clean game and I haven't had to make any decisions on hands or anything, it's going to have to be pretty egregious for me to call it when I haven't called anything else all day. Right. So, yes. Yeah. It is human nature to want to feel like you were a part of the game. Mm-hmm. It takes a long time to get to the point where you can safely say, I made no calls and I was absolutely okay with that.
Yeah, it's like one of my editors, he would always say, I changed a few things because I needed to edit. I was like, why'd you do that?
Yeah.
Don't do it. And so I get it. And then when I would then get into the position of editing, I would almost feel compelled to change things. And so I can empathize with that.
Yeah, you almost walk into a match going, I'm getting paid for something.
Right.
I should justify why I'm here.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you're going to tell me when I need to intercede and stop the game.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be a conductor of an evenly played match. If one side is getting an advantage, I need to take that away and level the playing field back out.
An advantage in terms of
you're not handling the ball correctly. You're doubling the ball, or you're dipping it a little bit too low and you're catching the ball. You're gaining an advantage by holding on to that ball too long. So now all of a sudden, instead of putting the ball 5 feet off the net, you're putting it up to the 3 foot off the net, where it's a better set, easier to attack. And now that blocker can't just pull off and get a roll shot. They actually have to think about, do I want to let them swing, or do I have to go up and clamp this and try and get that block?
Yeah.
So you're creating that advantage by an unlevel plane.
Do you ref different levels differently?
Yes.
So juniors, obviously, you're going to let more stuff go, but at the level that the NCAA is at right now, do you ref NCAA and AVP differently?
I will be honest as an official. It is very hard to ref men's and women's the same.
How come?
Because the men's game is just so much faster.
Yeah.
That there might be a bobble, but it's in and out of their hands so quick that I'm probably the only person on the beach that saw it.
Right.
The girls tend to play a little bit slower with their hands, be a little bit more finesse. And so it's more glaring when there is those minor bobbles. And so that's where it also comes down to like a hard-driven ball. Well, what's a hard-driven ball in the men's game versus a hard-driven ball in the women's game?
Yeah.
Your roll shot might be some people's harder, not their hardest.
But
you know what
harder,
I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But so you have to change your mindset. And it is very, very much within your control because we, as officials, especially that do indoor, I have to walk into a gym or to a beach. Am I reffing club? Am I reffing PAVO? Am I reffing high school? Am I reffing USA? Or am I reffing beach? And which level of beach? Because, college coaches want us to allow a little bit more of that dish.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're still teaching. But when you get out of college, you better clean that up quick because we don't really want it on the AVP.
That's what I'm wondering. If college coaches are doing their players a disservice.
I don't think that it's necessarily the college coaches that are doing it. I think with the growth of the game, there's so many people that are coaching the younger age groups and getting their habits started at those early ages.
Right.
So that by the time they're in college, are you going to tell Karch Karite how to change his passing?
Right.
No, it hasn't been called all these years on these kids.
Yeah.
Or you're not going to change their setting for them and make them worry about, am I staying high? You're going to just let them play. And then if it starts getting called, okay, maybe we'll make an adjustment type thing.
Yeah.
And again, that's...
It's so funny watching like little 8-year-old juniors handset.
And they're taking
a medicine ball. They're like,
yeah. Yeah. And it's hard.
Yeah.
Because there is an expected level, but I can't judge someone like an 8-year-old because they don't have the physical strength to play at the same pace as you.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, a hard-driven ball. My go-to for a hard-driven ball in the men's game, if my eyes beat the ball to the player, probably not hard-driven.
That's a good rule of thumb. I was going to ask you how you judge that.
Because, it is a judgment. And so we have kind of taken it as officials. We've changed the language of it a little bit. So it's not necessarily just hard-driven. Was it a decision or a reaction?
I like that.
Because being 5 feet off the net and a roll shot that comes right down on you and you just throw your hands up in a reaction, should that be called by the definition of the rule?
Yeah.
Yes. But are we going to call it? No, because with our interpretation, that's a reaction. If you're 20 feet off the net and you're standing there waiting for it, and it's a roll shot, and you put your hands up, that thing better be clean.
Yeah.
It's the same pace as when you're 5 feet away, but you have an extra 15 feet to make that decision of how you play it.
Okay. Yeah, man, there's so many little rules like that. I mean, that one, how many times have you been asked, like, what is a double? What is a hard-driven reaction? There's so many, like, little, like you said, volleyball is a very gray sport.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Yeah. And as officials, we're expecting to make those decisions instantaneously.
Right.
From one angle without the opportunity to look at a replay. Mm-hmm. Just, hey, I didn't think that ball was hit hard enough. Should have been cleaner.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, the internet is out there, and I've been guilty of missing calls and it being up there. And, hey, I'm human. I'll admit when I make a mistake.
I think that's the best thing a ref can possibly do. Is just say, hey, I missed that one. Or even after a match, just be like, yo, I probably should call this. I probably shouldn't call that. It's like, all right.
Cool. And as I have gotten to know players, there are some players that do enjoy that. And there are some players that do not tell me you missed a call.
Yeah.
It will mess with my psyche. And so we're out there, we see all the players enough that you try and get to know which way you officiate certain people. Maybe this team likes to play a little bit faster game, so we're going to keep the game moving a little bit better.
Yeah.
This team has one setter that is high and quick, so I'm going to give him the play, but then the setter is a little bit slower. And so, again, nothing is, this is exactly how it is. It's got to fit in this lane.
Yep. There's
15 different lanes.
Yeah.
And moving parts all the way in intersections, and that, you just need to be willing to adapt.
Yep.
And like I said, to some players admit that you made a mistake, and others just go, nope, that's my call. I'm sticking to it.
Yep. No, and that's it. My dad was an umpire for a long time. And one of the best pieces of advice is that he got was never rush a call. That even if you have to, even like ball strike, if you have to wait a beat to think about it and then make your call, that's way better than just rushing one and then going, oh, that was a ball.
Yep. And again, that kind of goes back into the situation of, do I want to make a mistake and call something and be a little bit tight, or do I want to let something go?
Yeah.
And so, again, we almost get yelled at if we're a little bit delayed. And I wish that wasn't the case. I wish we could change that culture of...
I prefer it when refs are a little bit delayed with the call, personally. I'm not all players, but I prefer it that way because to me that signifies that you thought about it. It is a thoughtful call.
Yeah. And I like that idea, but there's a lot of players and even coaches, especially in the indoor game, that want that instantaneous whistle. There's a double instantaneous, and again, then when do you draw that line?
Right.
If you're setting a ball out to your partner, am I allowed to wait until it gets to the top of the peak, or do I have to call it by the time he's attacking the ball?
Right.
Where is that?
It's hard.
That happy medium.
Because if you say you wait and you're thinking about it, and the other coach starts complaining, and then you call it, and
then they're going to say, "Oh, you're calling it because
you said something."
Yeah.
No, it's just I was thinking about it.
Or it'll be a ball that has a little bit of spin, and they'll go, "You're only calling that because it had spin."
Right.
Well,
it's like, no, I was thinking about why did it have the spin?
If you watch most of the refs that are doing the higher levels, whether it be the AVP, indoor, whatever, our eyes stay here and down. I don't need to see what the ball's doing up there.
Yeah.
What's it going to do? Hit a bird? I think everybody in the universe will know when it hits a bird.
Yeah.
I can make that adjustment when it comes.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a little bit harder when we're all wearing sunglasses because you can't see where we're looking and what we're trying to look at. But, we're not.
Right. You're not, and for just people listening, we're not nodding our heads and looking around. It's just playing to the net. Yeah,
and playing to the net. When there's a block, when it's Phil, I am looking up.
Right.
When it's Troy. But again, you're not following the ball.
Yeah.
I'm going from the pass. I'm going to look where the setter is. Okay, do I have to be ready for an over on two? If he's going to go over on two, okay, I got to be ready. Is that blocker going to go up? Could he net on the way up? Is it going to be a clean set? Is he going to be tight to the net? All these things go in. And then if it is tight, okay, is he going to try and set it? So now I have to worry about the blocker reaching over the net and interfering with his set. So I have to worry about him thinking that it's going to be a joust and doing an open hand tip into the joust. All these things are... and we're expected to make those instantaneous decisions.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah. No, it's a lot. And
then when you I'm just going to bring this up because it kind of falls into that. When you get put into situations where there's a lot going on and it's a situation that because it's so new, you have never been in it before, things are going to get missed.
Yeah.
And I think that is 90% of what happened in Chicago.
Chicago. What happened in Chicago? I'm trying. Oh, the shove.
Yes.
The Chicago shove. I thought that was handled from a fan's perspective, and I understand that the rules are probably the rules, but I thought it was handled perfectly. Except I don't think Trevor should have gotten a red card. But I do agree with the explanation that was given and that it was a de-escalatory measure because then any mouthing off from there then match is over. And so kind of had to keep it cool.
So you can expel someone you can disqualify someone for the set. You can expel someone from a match.
Oh, you could disqualify someone for the set.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So, as officials, we had long.
Were you on that?
I
match?
was not on that match.
Oh, okay.
I was out on court 1 that day. But there was a lot of things that when we sat down, I went up to my room. I heard all about it. Yeah. I went up to my room, and the first thing I did was put on YouTube and watch that match. And when I went down and we had dinner, first thing I said was, did you know that the coach was on the court? Both of the refs that were on that match went, the coach was on the court?
Yeah, Dan came running on.
They did not even know. Again, because it was such a unique situation and there was so much going on. And again, that's why officials have to work their way up. They didn't catch it.
Yeah.
So we were kind of talking about it. And by the letter of the law, what should have happened to Chase?
I mean, it should have been ejected from the match,
yes.
I would think.
Yes, because he laid the hand on.
Yeah.
How many likes does that video have right now on Instagram?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it's like 137,000 likes.
Yeah.
It's up in the like 17 million views or something like that.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you have to look at, could this be a little bit beneficial for the game?
For sure.
Now, if it's happening every single week.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of build up to that. There was a lot of emotion going into that game.
Yep.
And it was mostly off the court stuff. If people don't know, there was a lot of things that were said on Instagram, Twitter, all those.
Yeah.
And so that was one partner sticking up for his other partner. Was it great for the game? I think there is some very good aspects to it. Your question earlier about following the letter of the law, did they follow it? No, because that should have been an ejection for Chase. I think to maybe tip the scale, you could have either ejected Dan or given him a red card at least.
So clarify that one for me. Coach.
So the coach came on the court.
Yep.
Coaches are not supposed to be involved at all.
Coach in this case being Dan Vanadich, head coach of Chase, Buddingham, Malloch.
Yes, and he was definitely interacting with Trevor.
Yeah.
There was you see the official actually trying to separate them. And so because what Chase and Trevor both got was equal, what Chase did, I think, honestly, was a little bit worse than what Trevor did.
Well, it was
because there was
way worse.
Yeah. So should it have been the same punishment for both? Or could we, as officials, have gone and said, okay, well, scales are kind of tipped. How do we balance it back out?
Yeah.
And, okay, we're going to give a eject to Dan. Now that's 2 points that Trevor and Theo got.
Yeah.
And Chase only got 1 point. Or do we eject Dan from the match, and now they have to play the rest of the match 7 points into the match with no coach?
Yeah.
Does that tip the scales back? Again, where is that happy medium?
Right.
Where is the growing the game versus where is the letter of the law?
Yeah.
And there's never going to be a 100% right answer.
Yeah.
And I think that the way that it was handled in the moment was the best way that it could have been done with the information that they knew at the time.
Yeah. I agree. I think it was handled perfect. I think Trevor could have just gotten a yellow. I think other than that, because we had a lot of people were saying Chase should have been ejected, all this stuff, and that's where spirit of the law, they're grown men. Trevor's fine.
Yeah,
he fell on his hand. He's gonna live. And this stuff, I mean, this happens. It's a lot of testosterone, a lot of shit talk. Great for the sport. Let the boys play on. Yep. Red card. Don't do it again. Now you know the consequences if you do it again. Yeah. And now we have a wonderful rivalry that is must-watch television.
And it's going to go on for a couple years.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And I did sit down with Trevor afterwards a little bit, and because they lost their next match after that.
Yeah.
And so
it's on Trevor that they lost in the first place. It's on Trevor and Theo. You're up 18-14. Take care of business. It's not a problem.
I don't know either of the scores. I was on their second match. I don't even remember.
They were up 18-14 in the second set, and Trev was drinking it up, and then they folded, losing 3. That's on Trev and Theo.
Yep. Can't blame that one on the officials.
No.
But it's it comes down to the question he had of, well, is it fair what he did versus what I did? And, trying to explain everything that was going on and having just had dinner with the refs that were on it. And there needs to be some transparency, and whether between us as officials and the players. And we'll start another conversation about that during this podcast about that. But it's hard when the players sometimes are expecting something, like that red card for a ball leaving the court.
Yeah.
Like that ejection for laying hand on somebody. Well, when was the last time that happened?
Right.
It was Taylor Crabb and
Hayden.
Yeah, Johnny
Fort
Hayden.
Lauderdale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that was after the match, though.
No, it happened during the match too. There was some talking.
Oh, it was after the first set.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
And so again, what happened there? Well, it was after that they put in the thing about the ejection.
Got it.
So again, we're an ever evolving sport.
Yeah.
How much have the rules changed just in the last 10 years?
God, a lot.
How much are they going to change in the next 10 years? Where is the game? We'll bring up the Troy play.
Yeah, let's do it. The Troy play. A quick explainer. If you haven't seen it on Instagram, it's all over. So it's a joust, and because Troy is so freaking gifted, he catches it and he pulls it back. And then when the other player is losing contact, then Troy throws it down for a redirect block. Most people in their wildest dreams could never do something like that, but Troy can, Hendrik Mole can, Chase Budinger can, Andy Benish can. They've all done it, and some have been called, some have not. I think they've all eventually been called on it.
Yes.
First I saw Chase get called on it was in Atlanta, and he argued for like half a second, and he's like, yeah, that was it. You got me.
Yeah, Andy was called. Troy was called on it in Chicago.
Yeah.
So he has now been called on it.
Yep.
But again, it comes down to the evolution of the game, and as officials, all the things that we have to look for is one of the players going to net. Is the attacker going to get the ball first and with an open hand push it into the joust? Is it going to truly be a simultaneous joust? Then it becomes, well, at what point did it go from a joust and the other player pushing him back to now it's him pulling the ball back to avoid that joust and then going forward with it? And one of his plays was missed at Manhattan, and it was out on one of the outer courts.
J.M. Plummer. Sorry, buddy.
and you watch the official, and there's an 8x10 pull, and he's like this. And he's moving as it's going in.
Yeah.
How are we expected to make that call when we're already looking at all these other things, and now we're adding a new wrinkle? Players are evolving the game. It's our job as officials to catch up. It is something that we have talked about as officials, and we need to get to the point where if we see it as him pulling the ball back, then that's where it becomes a catch ball. That if it is a joust and he does hold on to it and it's the joust and then all of a sudden they're off and he doesn't come back anymore and just pushes it, I think that should be legal.
Yeah.
But like the play that I had with Andy and Taylor in Hermosa in 22, Taylor actually missed the ball. I thought it was a joust. And Andy just held on to the ball. Taylor missed the ball, and then he caught it and threw it to the deep corner.
Yeah.
I missed it. Other people have missed it. It's just getting a lot more famous now because he likes to call it out on us.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, it gets the views, it gets likes, it gets the fans out there. But we need to catch up as officials.
Yeah. I thought Troy's joust thrunk against Miles Evans at the league, I thought it was actually legal.
Yes. Because
Miles was following as Troy pulled it. Miles was on the ball the whole time. Then as Miles fell off, then Troy threw it back.
Yes.
And Miles, so
and again,
it comes down.
Again, it comes down to, okay, Miles very well was pushing that ball in.
Right.
And it wasn't just Troy coming back.
Right. It was Troy sort of absorbing it and coming with it, and then when Miles was going down, then Troy went back.
Yeah, because Troy's still going up, and
Yeah.
every other human is going down.
Right. Rumor has it he's still going up at UCLA Tennis Center. Which is insane.
He might just fly down to San Diego for next weekend.
He's coming in tomorrow, actually, and I'm planning on talking to him about I love that Troy has a play named after him.
Yep.
Where if you say
The
the Troy
Troy
Field
catch.
play, everyone knows what you're talking about.
Yep.
It's crazy, and it's hilarious because I don't jump very high. I'm one of those athletes where I'm coordinated but not explosive, and so I have learned the art of intentionally losing jousts, where it's a tap jump and you lightly push in, and then you control it on its way down, then you reset, and then I see Troy just out there just like, okay, now we throw. Like,
let's do a 360. Put the ball behind my head.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll windmill it.
Yeah, he's insane. Fun to watch.
Yeah. Very, very athletic.
Very. You mentioned before we came on are there any other nuanced plays that you want to make sure to mention before we get out of here?
There was a couple plays that happened even on my court in Chicago.
Yeah.
Not many people know the whole deal with the line replacement and what all that entails.
Yeah.
So this is part of the reason why us as officials are always talking to you guys about, hey, can you flip that line? Can you get rid of that mound? If the rally starts and the line say it's bowed or it's up on its side, that is how you play the whole rally.
Yep.
If it gets displaced while in the middle of the rally, whether it's a player hitting it with their foot or hitting it with their knee or a dive and pushing it out and creating a mound, then if that portion of the line is involved with the final play of the ball, we as officials are taught to get down, replace the line to where it started, and then make a decision based on what happened. And so, like the play that I had, it was Julia Scholes and Betsy Flint against Carly Kahn and Devin Sowers.
You did a great job. I was there.
And Julia passed the ball on serve receive, and she went out wide, and I saw her hit the line with her right foot. Well, then as she starts her approach, she pushes it even further and creates a mound so that the line doesn't snap back. She gets blocked. Betsy goes to cover it, thinks, oh, that ball's out. Well, it very clearly hit the line. Mm-hmm. The line was on its side. It very clearly hit the line. I will not deny that. But that line was about 3 to 4 inches outside of its original position. So I blew the whistle, got down off the sand, went over, just picked up the line, replaced it, talked to my R2, said, hey, this is what I had. She goes, yep, that's what I had too. Okay, I see that mark. Yes, it is out. All right, this is what we're going with. And again, that's a nuanced rule. Carly had no idea.
Yeah.
I don't blame her because there are so many weird things like that can happen. But then on their side change, her coach explained it to her, and she apologized for getting so upset.
And Carly is such an incredible human.
Yeah.
I saw her, I got lunch with her actually after that match, and she said that you did a nice job explaining what happened and that it was the right call. So,
yeah.
Good job.
And then the other one is the interference rule.
Yeah. This comes up a lot when I'm commentating, and I do my best to explain it to viewers, but hearing your wording I think will be helpful.
There is no such thing in beach volleyball as under. You can go under the net all you want. Yeah. You cannot interfere with the other player who is attempting to make a play on the ball. So I had that with Try and Cody, where tight set, Cody goes up, kind of comes down, goes off the block. From my angle, it looked to me as though Try was coming down and going to make a play at the ball. And from my angle, it was close enough that he could have made a play had they not collided underneath the net. And so I called it, and talking to other players and stuff, they don't see that called very often. Talking to Suzanne, who is one of our head referees, she thinks that is something that for player safety needs to be called more frequently. And so it's, again, where is that line? It did come in a crucial situation. Cody and and Sean were playing for a spot in the league. That was an important match. And so, again, it comes back to the heat of the moment. Say whatever you want to me. You're upset about the call. Doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to change it. I still think that I made the right call, even going back and having watched the video.
I thought you made the right call in the moment. That one's rare because it's rare that the player going under the net will actually impede with the blocker's ability to play it. But I think that was a ball that Tri would and could have played had that not happened.
Yeah. And, again, there's so much going on. There was some talk a couple years ago, I believe it was Manhattan, when Tri, I think, hit Miles Partain. Huntington.
Yeah, it was a joust, and Tri kind of piked on the joust and kicked Miles.
Yeah.
And then they came down, and Miles was like, yo, he kicked my hand.
Yeah. And, again, we're human. We're looking at the top of the net. We're watching for all that stuff. I don't have 360-degree vision. I can only focus on one, maybe two portions of my vision at a time. And so, okay, it's a call that was missed.
Yeah.
Yell at us. We missed it. Can't go back and change it.
Yeah.
But, it is definitely something that, because everyone is so athletic and there are so many more jump sets, what's going to happen if someone goes up and jump sets, pushes the ball out, but then comes in and the blocker thought that they were going to go swing, so they go up with them and now they collide underneath the net.
Right.
And is that an interference? Technically, yeah, because that blocker can no longer now get back to play defense. Should it be called? If the guy hits it straight down, was that blocker really gonna have a chance?
Probably not.
Probably not. But again, it's that debate.
Yeah.
Of where do you get involved and where do you let the players play and be the athletes that they are?
Yeah. And
give them the emotions.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. This happened to me in the finals of a NORCECA in La Paz, Mexico.
Okay.
Very windy, winds coming inland to the ocean side. I hit a hard-driven swing, and it's a high dig, and the dig is outside the court, and the wind brings it back onto my side. This is a NORCECA. Don't know what kind of reffing you're going to get, and so it's going to land on my side of the court, inbounds. And so I play it. Meanwhile, Miguel Sarabia, the Mexican blocker, he knows that it went around the antenna, and he had come to chase it, and he was going to go pass it back around the antenna for, I forget who he was playing with at the time, for his guy to then play it. But he was landing on my side of the court, and I didn't know if it had gone around the antenna, so I play it, and I got called on interference.
Yep.
What is that the right call?
That is the right call.
Oh, damn it, Matt.
Again, it's not what you want to hear.
Yeah.
But because it was outside the antenna, and that's where it gets hard.
Yeah.
Is as a player, you don't know what I actually saw.
Right.
If I saw the ball go around or if I saw the ball go inside the antenna.
Yeah.
It's a guessing game.
Yeah, and because usually you have a lines judge sort of put up their flag or whatever.
On that, you don't put up your flag until it lands.
Okay.
Because it's called pursuit. So that's a pursuable ball.
Yeah.
And indoors, we used to have a signal for that. We would put our hand out.
Okay.
And, that means that the ball's outside the antenna. Well, women's volleyball doesn't have pursuit anymore.
Okay.
Because the ref got taken out.
Oh.
So it became a safety thing.
Okay.
He broke his elbow. Got hit 6'7", 6'8" official. Got hit by a 5'2" libero. Broke his elbow. Yeah. So again, you have to take that chance.
Yeah.
And say you let that ball bounce and they don't call that antenna.
Right. Then I'm like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I feel like as a player, I know that I had to play that ball.
Yeah.
I think I'd do it again because you just don't, especially if I got John King, you, Suzanne, J-Rod, maybe I let it go. NORCECA, you got balls laying on your side of the court. You're playing the ball.
Yeah. Well, I jokingly I have a coin that says yes, no. That's one of those ones where, am I going to call it? No. Okay, play on.
I like that. That's good.
Was that a double? No. See?
Bam. It's like that. It's like a little magic 8 ball.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's how I ref a game. Flipping the coin inside my pocket.
Yes, no.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, is there anything else you want to bring up?
There was something else that I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
I said there.
Transparency.
Transparency. There's a group of us that are younger officials.
Yeah.
That we know how hard the players work. We don't know what all is expected.
Yeah.
I'm one of the officials that does go out there. I try and come rough practices. I try and just observe practices from afar. Don't want to seem too friendly, but again, trying to learn, trying to get to know.
You're approachable.
I try to be. Some players don't feel that way, and I mean, I do what I can. I'm a human, and I'm not forced like everybody, and not everybody's forced like me. But something that we were kind of talking about, me, Renee, Troy, Magdalena, is trying to create and get John King, Suzanne, Keith, but get a group of 3 or 4 players and 3 or 4 officials. And before the season, or even at the end of this season, before everyone finishes up, kind of create a sit down or a Zoom call or whatever and talk about rules. Where do you guys as players expect the rules to be as far as hands go? Where do you want us as far as leniency on that? Do you want us interjecting on people talking through the net? Do you want us interjecting on, whatever it is? But there needs to be that transparency. And I know that the NFL does it. They have their people that send out emails to all the coaches and players and, hey, this is what they saw. And we don't need to explain every single call, but I think that there should be at some point, like I said, that sit down to at least get on the same page as far as how everybody wants it called.
I think that'd be a great idea, having
because we as officials, we talk, and you guys as players, you talk.
Yeah.
And other than a couple this person conversations,
right.
There's not that.
Yeah. I feel like, there used to be technical meetings. There's still technical meeting is it's kind of a misnomer on the World Tour because your technical meeting, you just sign in.
Yeah.
But I think a technical meeting before a tournament, having that interaction could be a pretty valuable, even if it's just the first term of the year.
Yeah.
And now you've set the tone and the standard for the rest of the year. I think that's cool.
And yes, a meeting at that, but again, get on the same page so that when that meeting happens, both sides have already agreed that, hey, this is where we want to be.
Yeah.
Do we want to go the FIVB route on pace of play? Do we want to let it linger a little bit and not force that 12 to 15 second rule?
Yeah.
Just little things like that I think as a sport would help us grow and kind of clean up some of the confusion that could be out there.
Yeah.
And then, I'm out here doing this. Let people know what we as officials are talking about.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be afraid. We're, like you said, we're humans too.
Mm-hmm.
We have a story. We have kids. We have lives. We have
12
other
dogs.
We have other jobs. We have
Ginny Weasley long socks running around.
Yep. We got, cats running around. And so creating that openness is something that I, as an official, would like to see and want to be more open to podcasts like this. I know I did one with Jason DeBass where he had people chiming in with questions while Troy and I were on with him.
Yeah.
Great. Let's go.
That's awesome.
Whether it's a single play and we can pull up a video and watch it while we're going, or just talk about, hey, this happened and I was a part of that match or whatever. But I want to see more of that, and I want to expand out on what we're doing right here with this.
Yeah.
Because now obviously you're on the coaching side. You're still going to play a little bit, but it's definitely something that I believe would be advantageous to all parties involved.
Yeah, I agree. I think I will only play when Andy asks me to play. High standards here, Matt.
Yep.
I'll only play with Andy or Nick Lucent. I said,
Why? So that Nick can give me a red card?
That's it. Nick he's so great. J-Rod brought up, I think, the funniest story I've heard ever, where he said Nick comes up to him and he's all fired up and he goes, J-Rod, I need you to give me a card. And then J-Rod's like, okay. And then he just starts yelling again. He's all theatrical, and J-Rod gives him a card, and Nick freaks out. And then afterwards, they were chatting about it. I thought that was the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Well, and that was also the time at the AVP where I guess Nick went out and bought him drinks after that, too.
Oh, did he?
Because we could party with the players.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore. But.
Yeah. A little off limits. But, Matt, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate you explaining all that stuff. And I think the fans will enjoy this a lot. Because our episode that we did with J-Rod, he's the last ref, was maybe 19 or 18. So it's been a while, and they loved it. Yeah. Because they love hearing this stuff from a ref's perspective.
And, again, game's always changing, so who knows? Next year we might eliminate doubles completely on the beach. Follow the way of indoor.
Oh, boy. I'm glad I'm on the coaching side now.
You never know.
Never know. Yeah. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Travis.
Good luck with all your dogs and your kids.
Thank you.
And,
appreciate it. Good luck with yours.
You're doing NCAA Beach?
Yes.
Sweet. I'll see you out there.
Yep.
Right
so
on.
hopefully we'll see you out here in Huntington
for
the championship.
We'll be out of here.
Shoots.